maybe they're disappointed with the performance of a previous agency, or they're looking to Adhere Digital, they've heard about you guys. Like, can you point to what are typical things that you might see with a new client coming in the door in terms of things that could be improved, or what are the major hotspots that you look at and go, okay, we think we can do better?
Okay, fair question. So when we're looking at new clients, we'll take a look at their accounts, we'll see how things are set up, and we'll get access to things like their analytics, their tracking, if there is tracking. If there's not already, you're probably going to have terrible results. So the first thing, I suppose the thing that we see a lot of the time is tracking is broke, or tracking is not set up correctly, or there's not, the campaigns can be outdated. They can be using stuff that maybe hasn't been used properly in 2 or 3 years, and those campaigns are still live, and it's this lack of attention to detail. And there's a lot of businesses out there that think, oh, you just set it up and you let it run, and there you go. I had, speaking of audited account, we had one client that came to us who didn't know his Google Ads account was on for a number of years, and he had spent 50,000 and generated zero. Tracking is the number one issue we see with accounts, and not setting up tracking correctly.
And did that change when Google 4 or what was it?
GA4, Google Analytics 4, yeah. So Google Analytics 4 has replaced Universal Analytics. Universal Analytics was around since, I think, for about 20 years. Now that we're moving away from, I suppose, third-party cookies, GA4 is Google's answer to kind of get around some of that. It's not a very, well, I suppose it's early days. It's only, I suppose, rolled out in the last year or so, but there's a lot of discrepancies within it, and we're still,
in terms of where the data is coming from.
Yeah, the data is usually off by about 10 to 20% in different cases in comparative to the back end of e-commerce websites. So, and by the way, that's not for every GA4 account, but for a lot of our clients.
What do you mean off by 20%? Is in measuring visitors?
Measuring revenue. So revenue and sales could be anywhere between 10 and 20% off. And,
really? When you're logged in on the Google platform and you're looking at what the sales are, sales that Google is telling you could be off by 20%.
Yeah.
And then that's when you log in on the e-commerce website, there's a different number.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is the attribution problem.
Yeah. So attribution, privacy policies, people not updating cookies correctly. There's a lot that goes into websites losing a lot of traffic. One of the things I think that Ireland is very unprepared for right now is, that whole moving from third-party data to first-party data. So that's basically moving away from cookies and your data being, distributed to different advertising platforms, for different things, to more of first-party data. So you own your own data. You build out your own server. That data, it goes directly to your server and not through a third-party entity. So there's not enough businesses right now doing that, and that's a lot of things that we see wrong with clients. And if you can get your server-side tracking in place and get it done properly, you'll see an uplift in the conversions you're measuring and the overall conversion rates. Everything goes up, and that is vitally important, because your campaign's output is only as good as the input. So if your campaigns are using a lot of machine learning and they're optimizing towards sales and revenue, if you're not giving them that data, or if you're missing 20% of that data, your campaigns are just not as effective as competitors. And that's something that we see a lot. So people not having, the tracking infrastructure up to date. Businesses are kind of spending money and they're not really know where it's going. And for us, that's the first thing we do. We don't put anything live without building out quite a robust tracking infrastructure first.
That's kind of interesting. I'll probably go back to what I said, is that, for me, I think that each area of marketing has become so deeply technical, and that's just tracking. So within kind of paid advertising, there'll be somebody who might be amazing at building ad accounts and kind of keyword analysis and all that stuff. But then, to be really amazing at tracking is almost a whole different side. It's a whole different level of technical skill set. what are scripts? I've heard you talk about scripts.
Scripts a few times.
I've listened to you talking about scripts a few times, and I don't know. I kind of have an idea what they are, but I don't know what they are. So.
Yeah. So the advertising platforms like Google and Meta obviously rely heavily on the amount of money they generate for businesses. So right now, Google, Facebook, other advertising platforms are, I suppose, over calculating their returns. So back to attribution. So the results are a lot of the time inflated. So you could have Google ads made 50 grand revenue, Facebook ads made 50 grand revenue. You go to the back end of the store, the business only made 80 grand. So who's lying? There's
and should you spend more money on Google or more
exactly,
money
and that's kind of what they're kind of competing over. So with advertising platforms over inflating figures, it's important to try and look at other ways to extract information because ultimately, it's their business model. The more money they generate, the more money they make. So what we do to try, within campaigns now in digital marketing campaigns, a lot of data is hidden, and a lot of data is hidden for probably good reason. There's probably, if you got every little piece of information in a Google or Meta campaign, you would probably pull back budgets quite quickly. You might not spend as much as Google or Facebook would like. So with scripts, and not just scripts, scripts are little pieces of code that we put into the ad platforms that will, I suppose, tell us exactly what's going on underneath and give us more insights into what's working and what's not working. So